Hello, dear viewers. Today, we will once again raise an important and exciting topic. Doctors are the people we rely on to maintain our health. They advise us to take vitamins and supplements, assuring us that these are essential for our well being. But what if it's all a sham? What if it's not science behind it, but something else entirely? For more than half a century, mankind has been consuming vitamins at a shocking rate. But while it has not yet become immortal, neither has it reduced the number of handkerchiefs it uses up every year during runny noses and flu. It's time to figure out why. Once people did not know anything about vitamins at all, they were already struggling with their shortage. It was mostly sailors, as this brave tribe had to face a very strange disease. Here you are sailing on a ship for a few months with nothing so bad do not do, eat cutlets and corned beef, and then bang, and you lose all your teeth. Why is that? For a long time, scurvy was seen as a completely mystical phenomenon. For example, it was noticed that the sailors of ships sailing in the northern hemisphere, it happens more often than those whose ships sailed the southern seas. No one could explain this strange paradox. By the method of trial and error, Singa all the same defeated and much earlier than recognized its cause. It turned out that if you regularly feed the crew with lemons, then bleeding, ulcers, and other scurvy delights, she is not afraid. Already by the time of Cook's expedition in the 18th century, kegs of lemons were an indispensable part of the ship's provisions. And medical scientists published highly scientific articles in medical bulletins that since the sea is an element of saltiness and bitterness, and sugar, which was always enough in sailors' menus, is a supplier of sweetness, it was the lack of the fourth taste of acidity that led to such sad consequences. For all the quackery of these texts, they generally contained correct information, although they did bring to the grave a number of unlucky crews who tried to restore the balance of acidity with vinegar, because it was cheaper than lemons. And all because vitamin C deficiency, which causes scurvy, especially in conditions of short daylight hours and cold climate, is not found in vinegar. But who knew? A century later, people learned to treat another consequence of vitaminosis, rickets, although again they had no idea about the mechanism of its appearance. Just cumulative experience has shown that a child who is often outdoors, drinks a lot of milk, and gets a spoonful of fish oil several times a week, much better protected from this disease. And who cares how it works, as long as it works? In the late 19th and early 20th century, scientists created the theory of vitamins, after which numerous breakthroughs and inventions began. Scientists learned how to synthesize vitamins, discovered many of them, found the cause of several other diseases associated with vitamin deficiency, such as pellagra and beriberi. They calculated the recommended norms of vitamin consumption. That is, they were actively engaged in business. At first, the rest of mankind was quite serene about all these achievements. It was busy with world wars, revolutions, Great Depressions, collapses of empires. In short, the overwhelming majority of the population of this planet had enough troubles to keep track of what breakthroughs there are in the theory of nutrition. Where to get that very nutrition at the coupon norms was a much more important question. At the same time, the population was successfully vitaminized, as children's and school meals, medical diets, and soldiers' rations were already prepared, taking into account the importance of various vitamins, and pharmacies sold vitamin and mineral complexes. In general, everything was boring, predictable, and without excitement. Until he showed up. The very one who, in a good way, in every pharmacy monument should have been put in full height, because the income that he brought to pharmaceutical companies and manufacturers of biosupplements, well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's first get acquainted with him. Linus Pauling's name by the late 1960s of the 20th century sounded louder than the names of Astles and Gaze do today. He was a globally recognized genius, an archangel from science, a prophet of natural science disciplines, one of the founders of molecular biology, who won the 1954 Nobel Prize in Chemistry. He also surrounded himself with the fame of a great humanist, fighting the proliferation of nuclear weapons and becoming one of the main initiators of the signing of a treaty banning nuclear testing between the United States, the USSR, and Great Britain. For this, he was also awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1962. A fantastic all-rounder, chemist, physicist, biologist, philosopher, and politician, Pauling also had a great literary and oratorical gift. In short, a superman of the laboratory, equally revered by the lay public and the scientific community. Unfortunately for his reputation, he lived a very long life of 94 years, and in 1966, he was only 65 years old, the most you can say the prime. And just that year, Pauling caught a cold. His doctor Irving Stone recommended the scientist to take 3 grams of ascorbic acid a day, as he believed that, weakened by the disease, the body does not prevent additional vitamin C. So, the great scientist got hooked on ascorbic acid. Immediately after the first prescription, he felt better. A few days later was already healthy. And then Pauling had a breakthrough, he believed. He believed in the great healing power of vitamin C. It's not good to believe in a scientist. A scientist must be a terrible skeptic. The scientific method itself is built on the idea that any 2 times 2 equals 4 needs proof. Nothing in the world is or can be obvious. Anything obvious requires proof. So, based on the principles of scientific thinking, Pauling should have said, "I took ascorbic acid, I feel better." And that can only mean one thing. In this particular case, this particular pill did not prevent this particular me from feeling pretty good. And any other hypotheses to that effect could be tried to prove. But the personal experience of a genius accustomed to the constancy of his rightness allowed him to do an unforgivable thing: to write and publish a work that could not withstand scientific criticism. It was called Vitamin C and the Cold. In it, Pauling fervently persuaded everyone to take every day 1 or 2 grams of ascorbic acid to avoid colds and generally feel well, and at the same time do not neglect other vitamins. In the text, Pauling admitted that he did not understand the detailed mechanism of the effect of ascorbic acid on resistance to colds. It doesn't matter, as he has great confidence in the correctness of his recommendation. To say that the scientific community was stunned when familiarized with the work of genius is still a mild expression. From a scientific point of view, it was a text not much different from the works of adepts of harmonization of the elements of acidity. But all other members of society were ecstatic. The book, written in simple, clear, and even fascinating language, became a bestseller for a long time. Stocks of ascorbic acid swept off the shelves of pharmacies, and pharmacists, farmers, gardeners, and juice producers did not get tired of mentally kissing the traces of no-claimus Pauling. Everything became vitaminized, even popcorn chips. Mankind began to eat vitamins. In 1979, co-authored with a colleague, Pauling published a second book, Cancer and Vitamin C, which convincingly, but alas, equally unsubstantiated, asserted that vitamin C is an excellent means of fighting cancer, both as a prophylactic and during the disease. This book, too, was bought in millions of copies. What is most sad is that it began to do harm. Some patients, for example, now refused chemotherapy and surgery, preferring these unpleasant and dangerous procedures, cozy consumption of 5 grams ascorbic per day. Refusals of cancer patients from treatment caused a lot of dissatisfaction, especially since the observation of cancer patients taking ascorbic therapy did not show any improvement in their condition. And then, it seems and sounded for the first time the word quack, but Pauling and did not think to stop. He created and developed the theory of orthomolecular medicine, which he defined as the right molecules in the right amounts. Vitamins, amino acids, minerals, and bioactive supplements, according to this theory, can treat everything. The main thing is to choose the right dose for a particular patient. And yes, theoretically even bestow the gift of deathlessness. Well, here's a brilliant insight, and you're the one who has to deal with it. It's still unfolding, but at this point, it's safe to say, Pauling, you're wrong. Numerous long-term observational studies have found no correlation between dietary supplementation and patient health. In 2009, the journal Arch Internet finally published a giant observational summary report on 161,000 people that showed that multivitamin supplementation had virtually no effect on the risk of cancer, cardiovascular disease, and no effect on mortality in postmenopausal women. Hundreds of thousands of controlled studies on dozens of substances and hundreds of diseases. Poling died in 1994, having had time to enjoy his status as a psychonormal in scientific circles and the atmosphere of adoration among less demanding citizens. And there is no telling how many more decades it will take to convince the population to stop consuming such absurd amounts of supplements. For example, according to the Center for Research in Alternative Medicine in the United States, in 2004, 3% of U.S. residents took vitamins in ultra-high doses. And this is absolutely not helpful, as even with water-soluble vitamins you can drive yourself to hypovitaminosis, leading in turn to such troubles as coronary circulation disorders, hypertension, bamboo lipidius, liver toxicosis, spontaneous abortions, and fetal abnormalities in women, gout, jaundice, and so on. Now, what are you supposed to do? Realize that yes, vitamins are an important part of nutrition. Our bodies don't actually know how to produce them on their own, aside from a couple of the most hackneyed ones. But the thing is, we need very, very few of them. With a sufficiently varied diet of vitamins, mineral complexes can be forgotten, and certainly do not take them by the handful, even if you are strongly recommended by your local doctor. No, we are not accusing your doctor of criminal collusion with the manufacturers of dietary supplements. It's just very likely that he grew up and went to school in a time when the name Poling was uttered with fervor, and the gigantic doses of vitamins and minerals recommended by him were not yet officially recognized as first-rate nonsense.